Yeah.
Okay, welcome to finally a quick session on top. Would you quickly introduce yourself?
Uh, I'm IDK02. I'm a top bruiser main. I'm 19 years old. Yeah, I'm trying to hit diamond eventually.
Alright, sounds good. And what did you want to look at today specifically?
I want to look at how I could have around 20 minutes. I got such a good lead, and then we ended up losing. I want to see how I could have done this differently.
Right, I would agree that in this situation you're really ahead, right? 6-1,
hmm
you have good items, Fioros behind you. So yeah, at this point you have a lot of agency over what happens in the game. And yeah, I would also want to look at what happens from here on out, because you end up pushing top lane, which is good. Like, before you do something on the map, you always want to get your wave shoved in, so you make sure you don't lose too many minions. So this part is fine. And then you go as far as you feel like you can go, right? That would be your reasoning where you stop here, right? Because you feel like you can't go further. Or did you have other reasoning?
I stopped pushing here because I thought that by this time there's not much left I could accomplish. Maybe I could pick up like one more wave, but I didn't think that was like.
Okay, because you feel like you
Uh,
can't accomplish more. That's already good, because I think that's going to be a big part of what we're going to talk about here. So now you're going to end up walking down here and contesting Raptors against Hecarim, and I would want to ask you, what do you think of this fight?
I think I would hard win it if we both went all in, but I have to be careful of the vein.
Yeah, so take a look at the minimap. What information do we have right now?
Fiora and Hecarim are. I see Fiora and Hecarim, and I remember that Vayne was around mid that time.
What do you
So,
also know?
um,
What else is the minimap
about
telling
three
you?
missing. Three missing.
Yeah, also, but like the
Everyone
minimap
is
is.
far away.
Yeah, exactly. The minimap doesn't just tell you information about the enemies, right? It also tells you information about your teammates. And if you look at the map, you can see that none of your teammates are anywhere close and able to help you in case you want to fight this,
hmm
right? So for that reason, I think this fight is risky, but something you could get away with depending on how many people are actually there of enemy team. Because as you said, if you play this, you and it's 1v1, you actually win it.
hmm
So you end up fist fighting him a bit. You get Raptors. Then we fight mid lane a bit. Get chunked by Brand because Brand is broken against Jax. It's fine. And then we walk bot lane because Drake is up, right? That your reasoning here?
Yeah. Actually, I walked bot lane because I saw the wave, because I wanted to grab the wave, and I thought that I could just walk to Drake.
Yep. What do you think? Should you be at this fight right now?
I think I should have been at that fight in retrospect.
So I think you shouldn't have, because this fight shouldn't have happened. Like, at this point, it's always a bit hard to tell exactly, because there's always kind of two arguments here. Okay, there's on the one side the solo queue argument of, okay, people are stupid and people are gonna fight, so I should make sure I'm there for fights, no matter what, because I mean, if they fight without me, we're gonna more likely lose, right? So you could argue joining the fight should be the correct play because of that. And then you can also argue with good League of Legends and saying, okay, they shouldn't fight yet. I can just shove in this bot wave and make sure the enemy team are actually under pressure while they go for Drake. And so they shouldn't fight and just wait for me to push. And that's also kinda correct. And I think at that point it comes down to preference, what you want to do. So I don't mind your decision here.
Yeah. Well, I think that ideally I would just push the wave out all the way to the tower, but I didn't want. I felt a little bit pressured to just come, and then end up there being no fight, or there ended up being not. Yeah.
Yeah, but still think that's fine. You can never push this all the way to the tower, right? That's not happening, because this is, look, minimap, this is way too far. And Drake is coming up in, I don't know, 30 seconds or what? So I don't think you have the time for that ever. So it's fine to join them now. Just pick up the XP while you still can. It's good. And then here I think your macro is fine. Just a bit unlucky that we get chunked by Brand here this hard. Right. Right, now what do you think the correct play is?
I I know in this replay I backed right there.
Hmm.
I think that is still the right decision because I don't want to. Because I'm pretty low. I don't want to risk giving a kill away, especially when I'm this fed.
Hmm.
If I still have a bounty. Yeah.
So one of those two statements is correct. Funnily, it's the one that basing is correct here because you can't fight. But in the replay, you actually didn't. You tried,
Oh, I
but
didn't have a
then
bound.
yeah, but
Oh.
then fight happened and you joined anyway. So I like that the intent is there and that you're even like now reasonably able to explain. Okay, I should have based there because like we always have like a tendency to want to do something at every point in the game. That's just how people work that want to win, right? But I think sometimes the art is top lane, and that's also my main takeaway for you, is you have to realize that right now you can't do anything and you have to wait. Or like go somewhere else and do something else. And that depends a bit on context, and this would be like the first actual concrete example of that. Here you could have based and maybe gone top lane and shoved out the wave and made sure your team had some vision set up for Baron so you can at least contest that. Right? That's an idea what you could have done with your time instead of this. But at this point, that's often hard to tell because you're in the moment and you're like, oh, I still want to fight this Drake, but Warwick is that, I don't know, maybe I'm fed enough, I can 1v9 this, not sure. That's what you're thinking in the moment, right? Or at least that's what you're in danger of thinking in the moment. And so,
Yes, can.
yeah.
I
So,
saw that. Yeah, I saw you got
Mhm.
CC'd, and I thought maybe we could pick up this kill and we could turn it a little.
yeah,
But yeah, in retrospect, did not turn out well.
yeah. And there's also a really low chance that this turns out well, right? Because there's still so many enemies here. Which is why I would urge you to always kind of double check when you can actually do something and when you can't. Right, let's jump ahead a bit. First of all, what do you think of your general decision to push top here?
I think it was the only decision I had in mind because I saw Fiora's like the wave for bot is way too far,
So,
and going mid just doesn't seem right. And
yep.
they're taking the camps, so only top's like basically the only good decision.
Okay, so first of all, to get that out of the way, you are indeed correct that going mid lane is almost never a good idea as a bruiser. Because mid lane is the safest lane, and that should be reserved for people who can't side lane. Like Jinx and kinda Vex. Like Vex is fine side laning, but she doesn't really like it. So you should never be mid lane. Then the question becomes, do I go here or do I go here? Right? As you described yourself. And so you can argue, okay, here's a wave, that's why I want to go here. But I would say Baron is up, so you really want to be bot lane in the long term, right? Especially since there's also a tier 2 here. And there's no tier 2 for you to take here. Right? And then also Fiora is going to clear this wave and push it toward you. So you're also going to be somewhat in time to arrive for the wave. And then
So the reasoning behind going bot would be because the tier 2 is up and because Fiora's gonna push it anyways.
well, there's 3 reasons, right? One reason is Baron. Second reason is tier 2 is up. Third reason is missing wave up here is not that bad because Fiora pushes wave in anyway. Those are the 3 reasons I would see why you should go bot here. But anyway, that's more or less just a side note. So here you keep pushing, which is still fine, right? What do you think about this wave? Is this wave still fine?
Yeah, that's fine.
Why?
Because after I push, I could just immediately leave back off, and they won't have enough time to reach me.
Yeah, but what if all enemies are in fog right here, right now? They could be red. You don't know.
That's true.
So why is it that fine anyway? Because I agree. I think it's fine. What's your team doing right now?
They're hitting bot, and they're pushing mid out
What do you think their intent is on bot lane?
to kill Fiora.
And what do you think would happen if they try to kill you and your team tries to kill Fiora, considering the game state?
After they kill Fiora, they would go Baron. Sorry, after they kill me, they go Baron, and after my team kills Fiora, nothing really happens.
Yeah, but I also think they have a much harder time killing you than your team will have killing Fiora, right? Because you're really fat and Fiora's behind. So that's why I think it's fine. If you push this, you can at least stall for a lot of time and let your team get back into the game, and probably even survive considering your build is like really tanky with Frozen Heart and Sandra. I think you're gonna get out. But I don't think Fiora is necessarily gonna get out depending on how she plays this. So the lesson learned here is, while your team is doing something, you have much more incentive to keep pressuring yourself, because even if something bad happens to you here with like 3 or 4 people coming onto you, your team is going to get something for it. And I think that's the most important point for Bruiser late game macro, is you have to realize what your team is doing and if you pressuring right now does anything. Because if you look now, okay, now you've cleared this wave, Fiora's out of vision, and your team's not doing anything. What do you think of keeping the step up here?
I think that I'm not sure. I think that going for this would be fine.
I would say it's completely troll, because I don't know what you would want to even achieve here. Like, okay, sure, this wave is gone now. And you already had no vision before, and now you're going even deeper. Which is why I think this is very, very risky at the very least, right? But also, the reward for the play is very, very low, because there's no tier 2 here for you to take. And yeah, sure, you can say you run at tier 3, but I think with the current map state, that's not realistic at all. Because again, no one in your team is anywhere near you and can help you. And you see Brand here, and if you go here right now, like look, if you go here, then Brand can already go and come from behind it. Everyone else, no matter where they is, will have time to come to you at that point, right? Even if someone's here, they can like base and walk here, and then you're probably screwed. And again,
I would say,
your team is in no position to do anything right now. They are just 3-manning Crux right now for fun. What are they doing? Yeah, look, they're 3-manning Crux.
I would say that my goal here was not to hit the tower, it was just to push the wave all the way in. Which my goal here was to like not pressure the tower, but just get the wave pushed in completely.
Yeah, it's a nice goal to have, and it's a luxury if you get to do that. But in this position and this map state, you don't get to do that, because you have no information on enemy and your team is not doing anything right now. You don't have the resources to be able to do that, and you also don't need to, because this Vayne is just going to push this wave back to you. You should be concerned about crashing this into tower if people are actually going to freeze this, but I think if they freeze it, you can just roam. No? Like you can go here, try to kill Brand, go here, set up Nash, and then as soon as you start threatening Nash, they can't freeze this anymore, right? Because if they still freeze it, then they can't contest Nash. So that's why I really don't like this play, even though you almost get Vayne, which is borderline illegal. Holy shit. I don't know how she dies there ever. But yeah. That's what would be my main takeaway for this. Just when you play mid-late game as a Bruiser, look at your map, see what your team is doing, and if your team is applying pressure, you can also apply pressure. Like for example, look, if Jinx was about to go to this tier 2 right now and auto-attack it, then it would make sense to go here and keep pushing, right? Because at that point, enemy team is going to have to concede something. Either they defend you here, which takes a lot of people, and then like they can force you out, but Jinx is going to get tier 2. Or they all go bot and kill Jinx, but then you can take tier 1, tier 3. And at that point, pushing that deep is good, right? Because your team is giving you the backup you need.
Would you say then that I should have just backed after I pushed that last wave?
Well, you can either back, that's fine, but you can also stay and do something else. So look here. I would probably just walk like this and then see how I'm feeling about the game state. If Vex spaces, I would probably go around here and then maybe either take Wolves, receive a mid wave, or look for a pick here if I'm confident, but probably not this. But like just do some safe play while your team is 3-manning Crux down here. Because right now they are not doing anything to affect the game state. And while your team is not doing anything to affect the game state, you can't really either. That's sort of the tragedy and beauty of top lane at the same time.
So when my team isn't applying pressure, the best play is just what would you say?
Well, we,
I,
we, we could make a guideline and say, okay, when my team is not creating pressure, I can't create pressure either. But that would be an understatement, because if you're this fat, you can also always create some form of pressure by just walking into the jungle and toying around a bit, because you're likely to get out of most fights. And it's also valuable if you just waste enemies' time with your time, which you can't utilize right now. So I wouldn't like that guideline. But you can definitely say, okay, when my team is not applying pressure, then I should be very careful in what I go for with my own plays. That would be the general rule if I had to give you one. Then after that, they take Nash, and Drake's Soul is coming up. Fight this, which is good. Oh, wait. Why is the camera trolling? Yeah, this was actually a positive example of that, right? Because Drake is coming up, you push top in all the way, make them respond, then you go bot, and then you proceed to push in bot to get pressure for Drake. And then this is more or less the same thing, because you know they just took Drake and your team is again nowhere near, which is their bad, obviously. Warwick should be at Drake. But if they're not, then you can't go this far.
yeah.
Okay. So do you feel like you've understood this main point?
Yes.
Good. Then how do we make sure you keep applying it? As you may or may not know, I'm a pretty big fan of sticky notes. So if you have some of those around, I would recommend you just write the concept on one of those and pin it to your screen, so that it reminds you.
I have Notepad open right now.
I mean, that also works.
Uh,
But I just want you to have some reminders in game that make sure you actually like do what we talked about, because I know for myself that if I give myself a takeaway to work on, and then I go in game, I'm in a completely different mindset to what I'm in when I review games, and so I often forget what I was actually supposed to do if I don't have like specific triggers in game. So you could say like, okay, if there's a new wave arriving in the mid game of enemy minions, like in this situation, whenever this happens and you see a new enemy wave emerging out of fog, you ask yourself quickly, okay, what's my ally team doing right now, and can I pressure this wave, or should I be somewhere else? I could imagine that to be a good trigger for you.
I say maybe in terms of takeaway, in general, apply pressure when they're applying pressure. And as an oversimplified example, push waves at the same level that everyone else is, if that makes sense.
Yep. That would be an avid oversimplification, I'd say. Right?
Mhm.
Okay, so to recap, pretty much when your team is pressuring, you can pressure. When your team is not pressuring, you need to be more careful. And you're gonna keep track of that with one, your notepad, and second of all, whenever you see in the mid game or late game a new wave of enemy arrive out of fog, then I want you to ask, okay, what's my team doing right now? And can I actually pressure this wave or not?
Mhm.
You happy with that?
Yep.
Alright, awesome. Good luck.